Hi guys, welcome back to the workshop. Now, a few of you have asked specifically, how the hell do you get started working with leather? And I thought, well, what better way to do that than give you guys a little short introductory video on how to do all the different aspects of leather. So I'm going to put together a short series of cutting and edging, of templating, of stitching, of joining two pieces together with glue and stitching and things like that, different types of stitching, how to sew leather, and any specialist tools that I happen to have kicking around in the workshop that you might come across and want to use. So without further ado, let's jump right in and get stuck on with a medieval pouch project that I'm currently doing to show you guys how to cut out and edge leather. So when you start out in leathercraft, what you're going to want is a few basic tools to get you going. Now you can go out and spend an absolute fortune at places like Tandy or Le Prevost and buy all of the top end tools if you want, but you really don't need to. Your absolute basic bog standard is something to cut with and something to mark with. A ballpoint pen to mark, and a retractable Stanley knife style craft knife to cut with. That is literally all you need to get started, and obviously some leather. But what you can do then is you can add to your tools. I personally like a couple of steel rulers that allow me to cut really straight edges and put the knife blade against the rule and cut, and then I can't cut into the ruler like you do with a wooden ruler. I've also got some of these rather lovely antique Victorian tools that I found on eBay for not a lot of money, but this does exactly the same job as this. This is a stylus which is similar to the ballpoint pen in that I can draw on leather with this, but it definitely doesn't leave any ink on the surface. All it is a piece of brass rod stuck into a willow handle. I made that myself. Then you want a whetstone or something similar so you can sharpen your knives, because they do blunt fairly easily, because leather is fairly abrasive against your knife blades. You then need a bog standard sponge if you want to move on to any sort of slicking and carving or anything like that. You need a sponge and water. Any household variety sponge will do absolutely fine. This is where you need a few more specialised tools for edging and carving and slicking and things like that. This is an edging wheel. It's a bit of a state, I really need a new one. Same like the cutting mat, it's a bomb site. But this is a wooden wheel, and I think I got this one from Le Prevost. It was a few pounds. It's got the groove in the edge, and what you do is you put your leather in there and you polish away and it slicks the edge. You can use anything that's hard and smooth. This is a piece of cow horn from my other projects that I made so that I had a traditional looking one to take to events. I mean, you could even use the handle of one of your other tools, as you can see I have done here in the past where it's faded away, or even the edge of your coffee mug or a piece of nylon. Anything that's smooth and hard will work to slick the edges of your leather. The last couple of tools that you're probably going to want to invest in, because they are specific and they do sort of one job, is a French skiver or an edge skiver. It's a little hooked prong with a blade down in the centre, and you put it on the edge and push it along and it takes an angle off the leather. I'll show you how to use that a little bit later in the video. And the other one, this is possibly my favourite piece of kit. It is an adjustable stitch groover. Okay, so it's got this little metal bar that slides in and out and locks in with a twist collar, and then this little tiny eyelet here has a sharp edge on the other side. You press that down into the leather and pull, and a little worm of leather comes out there, and then you have a defined line in the outside edge of your leather to show you where to stitch, or for design or anything like that. And again, I'll show you how to combine this and this to make a lovely edge later on in the video. Finally, if you're anything like me, I'm rubbish at drawing freehand, so I have templates. This one is just standard cardboard package, and this is for the project I'm working on today. This is a shallow bollock pouch front, because it's got a shallow bit here. There's also a deep bollock pouch front, which is much steeper for a different period. And then I lay that on my leather, draw around it, and I've got my template marked. I'll show you that next. Right, so straight away, the first thing I'm going to do is make sure my knife is really, really sharp. Wet down the whetstone a little bit. Take the blade, and then at about 33 degrees, few passes. Now a brand new Stanley blade will be sharp enough. Leather wears them down quite quickly. So I now know that's nice and sharp. I can put that to one side and get on with the cutting. So here's a project I'm part way through at the moment. This is a medieval style belt pouch, and this is the main body of the pouch. It's already marked and it's on the skin side rather than the flesh side. It's on the surface. I've done this in pen because I want to be able to follow the line and tweak it later on. I now need to find somewhere to get this piece out of. This is my template for a shallow medieval bollock pouch, and I don't want to waste any material, so I want to see where it's going to fit without wasting anything. And then I'm going to take my non-marking pen, look, you can't see it, but this one is going to be fairly exact and is also a front profile with no stitching on it. And mark around my template. So I don't want any ink showing on this one, because this is going to be the front panel, whereas this is the main body of the bag. So then I'm going to take my freshly sharpened blade. I'm going to make life really easy. I'm going to take my steel ruler, place it along my marked line. Now trust me, there is a marked line here. Press down and cut. You want to do it in a couple of passes, but smooth cut. Nice, even line and a good sharp top. And then carry on and cut around the edges. Now I can move the piece around and it'll make it easier for cutting the fine detail of the curves at the bottom. And here I'm not pressing down super hard. I'm just guiding the knife gently along my marked line. And then go back. And again. And then just pick out any bits and tidy up the edges. There we go, it's super simple. That's it cut out. So what I'm going to do now is cut the other pieces of the project out, and then we'll come back and have a look at the other tools we need to carry on with edging. Okay, brilliant. So we've cut this piece. And we've cut the front flap. Now, leftovers and scraps, never throw them away, because that might be the perfect size for a future project. So put it to one side to come back to. And now we're going to have a look at how to take it from this harsh square edge here into a nice smooth round edge. And that's where we're going to go to the edging tools. Okay, so initially on this waste piece of leather, I'm going to show you a very basic way of using your standard tools to put a bevel on the edge. You're just going to slice a very small amount off the side of the leather. Just a tiny amount on both sides. So you tip the blade and run it to take the fur off. This is where we have to apply high quality H2O. We're going to wet the edge up with just your everyday garden variety sponge. And wet the edge up, you can see straight away the leather changes colour. And then you wait a few minutes for the water to completely soak into the piece. So go make a cup of tea. Once you've had your cup of tea, you come back and it's soaked in nice and evenly. We're then going to go to the slicking tool and just begin to work backwards and forwards, just building up friction. And it'll change feel. It'll go from being a bit rough as you're pulling the edge backwards and forwards to suddenly feeling nice and smooth and slidey. Now there are other chemicals you can add to this that allow it to make it to slick a little bit easier. Personally, I don't like them. I'd much rather do everything the old-fashioned way by hand. So you can already see here it's starting to polish up on the edge compared to this side, which is still rough and ragged. This is starting to get there. Obviously, it takes a little time and a lot of friction. Now, if you've got a Dremel tool and you put this on, you can do these in minutes, fly through them. Now, to show you the difference, here's the horn edger. Works in exactly the same way. It's a bit rough here. The wooden handle, I'm going to put a bit more water on the project. Wooden handle, exactly the same principle, or heck, even the coffee mug that you've just been using, or the tea mug. And after a while, you'll end up with a nicely slicked edge. Obviously, this isn't ideal. What you want to do is get as much pared down off the edge as you possibly can, as evenly as you can. But for that, we need one more specialist tool. This. Might look like an olive fork. This is a French skiver or an edge skiver. It's got two little prongs and a sharp blade in the middle. And rather than needing to tip your blade over and cut the edge, you literally just put it on, press down, do the same on both sides. And that takes an amount off both edges. And now to show you the comparison, I'm going to wet this edge again. Let it dry a little bit, and then using our slicking wheel again. So you can see already smoothing up. We'll return to the other side, which is a bit rougher and shaggy. You see, it's just a case of progressing it gradually, bit by bit, until you've got a finish on the edge that's nice and smooth. All of the lines, all of the extra bits of fluff are packed down, and you're happy with it. Right, so here we are back on the bag project, and I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to take my French skiver, I'm just going to go around all the edges. Again, remember to rotate the piece. Don't try and work round strange angles. I'm going to go straight across. I should really apologise about the state of my cutting mat. It's getting to the end of its usable life. You can see it's got dye stains and marks on it and everything. I should really get a new one sorted, which I'll probably do via Amazon. Bear in mind, anything I'm using here, any of the tools, if you look and you think, oh, I'd really like one of those, you can get them through the link below the video, and then I get a little bit paid back to me by Amazon for referring you guys to it. Okay, cool, here we go. And I'm going to crack on and do exactly the same all the way around this. Okay, so cool. That's all slicked down now, nice and smooth. And it is just a process of literally going over and over and over, and time spent. And I've also done the edges on the main pouch piece as well. So next up, I like to do a bit of decoration on anything, even if I'm not stitching it, because I think plain like this it always looks a bit strange. So I'm going to use this, which is an adjustable edge groover. You see, I can move it in and out. These are about sort of £10–12 and definitely worthwhile. Otherwise you're stuck with your non-marking pen and you've got to gauge your distance, mark it roughly, and then go back over it with your stylus and working it backwards and forwards, and it takes ages. So with this, you literally set the width on the tool to how far from the edge you want, you press it against the edge, press down, and it pulls out a little ribbon of leather, leaving a defined groove for you to then mark up for stitching. Again, it's very simple. Press down, draw when you get to the corner, bit of trial and error, measure it round and carry on, just pushing it into the side of the piece, and again always turning the piece as you're working. And then just to make this a little more obvious, because the top one's not going to have stitching in, but all of these are, I'm going to go over with my stylus tool and burnish it in. And that's really the basics of it. You then go through and mark your stitches in here, but we'll have a look at that in the next instructional segment. And if you were going to do any carving, you'd then wet this face here and do exactly the same as we've done here. But again, I'll cover that in another video, because if this was just a basic functional bracer piece or a wraparound tag, this is literally all you'd need to do. And that's all there is to it, guys. So if you're starting a project like making some basic bracers or something like that, where there's no stitching involved, that's all you need to do. So there's no excuse not to be out and cracking on with something for the Wyld Folk Challenge. Now, if you found this video useful, please let me know in the comments. If you've liked what you've seen and you found it useful and you're not already one of those awesome people who subscribe to my channel, please subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon so that you get all of the notifications. And if you really love what I'm doing and you want to help me, support me on Patreon. Thank you so much, guys.